Welcome to the TOWTalk Podcast. My name is Denise, and I am here with my co-host, Neil. And in this segment, we got a couple things we're going to go over. We're going to talk a little bit about healthcare and some interesting stuff going on in the news and locally. But before we get started, earlier today, I tell you, the shit that comes out of this administration is sometimes laughable. It's sad that it's laughable, but it's laughable. So Scott Bessent, he is Trump's Treasury Secretary in the federal government. Just a reminder, in case you don't know who he is, he was the manager of a $5 billion hedge fund in 2017, who roughly, a year or two later, lost over 90% of it. So this is the guy handling the Treasury. So anyway, I'm going to go and share my screen here. Just listen to this and tell me what you think. Oh.
But what is your take on what you just heard? He's expecting $10 meat.
Well, Maria, the beef market is a very specialized market. It goes in long cycles, and this is the perfect storm. Again, something we inherited, and there's also, because of the mass immigration, a disease that we've been rid of in North America, made its way up through South America. As these migrants, they brought some of their cattle with them. So part of the problem is we've had to shut the border to Mexican beef because of this disease called the screwworm. So we're not going to let that get into our supply chain. And again, I don't want to focus on one product. It's a very important product. And we are laser focused on this issue. And
that's right, because of the huge herds of undocumented cattle that was crossing the border. I mean, the border patrol was really busy.
We have illegal beef now.
We have illegal beef. So, does the undocumented cattle get free alfalfa? That's what.
I'm not even understanding the point he's making.
He's blaming immigration for the high price of beef, not the fact that we've tariffed beef all over the fucking place, and that we've taken the migrants who fed the cattle in this country and drove them out of the country. We've either deported them or they're in hiding because they don't want to be deported. Either way, they're not going to work, and the cows are going hungry. And then they put tariff on beef coming from, where was it? Was it Argentina or Brazil? I keep losing track. But
no, Argentina's the one where they took off the tariff.
Oh,
and they're allowing the beef to come in.
Right, but that was a specialized kind of beef, whatever. But yeah, so his pivot is because the migrants were trafficking in cattle to the country with some screwy worm in it. I mean, honestly, the lengths. First of all, Scott Bessent has to go back to heritage for his class on propaganda, because he is clearly the worst fucking liar. He's so bad. He's just so bad. His mouth is moving. He can't lie. He's just really bad at it.
What have I been saying this whole time? It's all about what they can sell.
I know. Apparently,
what they can sell. What is the consumer going to buy? Right? What bullshit lie is the consumer going to buy? Because that's all they are selling, and they are giving it away for free. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. That's what you're getting for free.
Is that,
right?
That's honestly. So,
I can't.
There is a historian. Her name is Ruth. She has like a French last name. I can't really pronounce it. It starts with a B, and I can't remember it clearly. But she's been on doing the podcasting as a guest.
Right.
And she talks about authoritarianism and how the authoritarian the people surrounding him have to seem less intelligent, so that the authoritarian, the strong man, looks all smart and powerful. I guess in Trump's case, they had to really lower the bar to put really fucking stupid people in, because Bessent isn't acting. He really is that dumb. Because don't forget, he lost 90% of a $5 billion hedge fund. at a time when the market was going up. So that's my
I don't listen. These guys who start these funds or whatever, I mean, they're making decisions up top. They don't really know what's going on. Their job is to sell their fund, right? That's all these fucking people are doing is they're selling you a lie, and you can continue to believe that lie,
yeah,
right? Or you can ask. You could say no. I'm not going to believe it because it's bullshit. The fact is the feed that we buy, right, from Monsanto, right? Like, I mean, you gotta remember, where
yeah,
the hell is this shit coming from? It's coming from companies like Monsanto and DuPont and stuff like that. They make the feed for the animals. A lot of the feed is engineered, right? I mean, it comes from overseas. You're getting it from China, right, or wherever. And so when you raise the price of that stuff, I mean, it's naturally going to impact the tariffs.
right.
The
So,
tariffs aren't going to impact that. And so it's going to cost more money to feed them. And then you're not going to have the ability to process them because, as you said, they're deporting all the immigrants who do that type of labor.
exactly.
This has all become a joke. But really, where the costs really get added on is you have the cost to ship it across country, you have the cost to store it, you have the energy costs. I mean, there's so much that goes into getting it from the supplier all the way to the end user.
Correct. Yep.
And people just don't get how these small things, the people were sold a bill of goods, right? They were told that prices go up because of increased regulation. I've heard this story my entire life. It's not true. It just is not true. The fact is that the costs continue to rise as you have this nonsense happening.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, as you have this type of because what deregulation leads to is it leads to shortages within our food supply, because then you're talking about contamination. You're talking about companies that say, well, I don't have to be safe anymore. I
Right.
can take shortcuts. They start taking shortcuts, and next thing you know, the food supply gets contaminated. Well, then they have to do a recall. That costs money. And then they have to stop their supply. That costs money. And then all of a sudden, the shortages in supply increase the costs that you end up getting charged because now there's a shortage in supply.
Yeah.
And there's the same demand. Like, enough. I'm getting sick and tired of the stupidity of people not understanding supply and demand, basic economic theory.
Yeah.
I mean, these are basic economic theories, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's some added costs with some of the regulations, but the amount of cost in the long run, I mean, you're saving so much more money, and not only that, you're saving people's lives.
Yeah. Yep. But hey,
It kills me. It freaking kills me that people think that, oh, my steak is going to be $1 cheaper if I get rid of the safety guy that ensures that my beef is safe, and doesn't have freaking mad cow disease or something like that, right? Like, oh yeah, but then it turns out to be $5 more because now all of a sudden there's a beef shortage because the animals aren't getting the nutrition that they need because they can't afford, the farmers can't afford to buy it, right, from overseas where they have the supply.
yeah. So, yep. So that I just when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, and the stories that they're willing to tell to cover for that. They won't go into supply and demand. They'll tell you some bullshit story. And it either falls to Biden or immigrants these
Right.
days. That's
Right.
everything that's bad. It's either Biden's fault or immigration's fault. Even when
Can
it's
I
their
tell you?
own.
Can I tell you what it reminds me? Every time I hear that, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds, I don't know. Listen, I may be dating myself because maybe the younger kids don't remember those cartoons. go back to the cartoons when we were kids, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of when the bad guy was like, oh, they went that away, right? And they point in another direction, and then they're sneaking away with the bags of money. Like, you remember those white bags of money with the dollar signs on them, and they're like sneaking away, and they're like snickering, they're like, you know,
Yes.
you know, and it's like.
And you're sitting there with the and it was always like the Bugs Bunny that pulled a fast one like that, and who was it, Yosemite Sam or whoever it is that's trying to hunt them down, or no, I can't remember his name. Oh my God, but it doesn't matter. Elmer Fudd, that's it. Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
That's right. I had a teacher we used to call him Elmer Fudd, but that's another story. But yeah, Elmer Fudd is like, oh, okay.
Right. It just reminds me of those old cartoons, like these wealthy people, these rich people, these billionaires, right? They literally treat us like stupid idiots. Okay.
And think we don't figure this out.
And don't think we don't see them like walking away with the bags, like it's literally bags of cash, like
it's
and they're
literally bags
on the
of
side.
cash.
Right. And you look at the, anytime you've gotten like a private video or whatever, they're like snickering, they're laughing at other people's pain. Oh, we came away with billions. Ha, 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 ha.
And they are, and they're doing it right in real time in our face. Although the in the previous segment, in a previous segment, we brought up the fact that one of the agreements within this continuing resolution ending the shutdown thing involved allowing senators whose phone records were subpoenaed regarding J6 to allow them to be able to get themselves a half $500,000 payday. They could just, sue. I guess sue and the DOJ will just settle with them for at least $500,000. They could probably sue even more if they want. And that's our tax dollars. That's where it's going. It's going to line their pockets. Literally happening. I mean, Trump did that last month with $230 million. He decided, he'd been inconvenienced by the DOJ and he was deserved a $230 million payday. Just pulled that number out of the fucking sky. And that's our tax dollars.
And that's the thing. We're so used to in this country giving 40-50% of our paycheck when it's all said and done to the federal, the state, our local governments, okay? And there being no accountability of the money, right? I've talked about it in this town, in the town of Waco. The idea, like as long as you're throwing a party, nobody gives a shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? They do this at the state level. They do this at the federal level. I mean, at a time when we were talking about food stamps and we're talking about people going hungry in this country, these wealthy fucks were sitting there holding a Great Gatsby party.
A Great Gatsby party.
Right? And that was only one of two parties. There was actually a second party that happened too.
Oh, really?
Right? Which was even more egregious than the first party. Okay.
I don't think I heard about the second one, or maybe I did.
Yeah, I mean, there were two. It was right. Like
this is their priorities.
And you got to remember, this is all with taxpayer money. Okay.
Yep.
What the idea is well, if it's not in your face and nobody's there to tell you about it, because remember, they fired all the auditors. So they fired all the auditors. Okay. So there's nobody there to whistleblow or tell you about what they're spending the money on. And it's just like the same thing, right? We're not going to release jobs reports anymore because they're, if we don't release them, we could tell you whatever we want and you have to believe us because we're government, right? And we see that too. We see that in our local news, right? It was, one of the newspapers would say, oh yeah, we got a story for you, and they would tell the story, and it was automatically, we're going to believe the story, even though they didn't answer any of the basic questions that reporters are supposed to answer, the who, what, when, where, and why, right? They don't answer any questions. They don't get any of the details. It's, well, this is what the government said. The amount of times, okay, that George Serrano, the town supervisor of the town of Waco, right, said, okay, that there's nothing wrong with the finances. Everything is fine. Over the last, 5 years, the amount of times that he said that only for there to be one problem after another. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right? No bond rate, loss of the bond rating, $400,000 stolen from the town,
But
right?
there's no problem.
But
Nothing to
there's
see
no right. It's the idea of what can we sell you? That's
Yeah.
all it is. What
Yep.
can we sell you?
How can we spin this so we can get people to
Right.
buy into it?
And
so
it's not
yeah,
just the Republicans that are trying to sell you that. It's Democrats that are trying to sell you that too. Everybody is trying to sell you a story. Okay? Me and Denise are here to try to break through that story and trying to give you, listen, there's one side, there's the other side, and then there's somewhere in the middle is the truth.
yes.
Okay?
Yep.
The idea is to distill what the actual truth is. And that's what we need to dig into. And that's what I think me and Denise try to do, is we try to dig into, and we are asking questions. We are not just
asking questions.
giving our opinion and stating it as fact. We are saying we would like to see this. We would like to see release of information. We would like to see the release of the audio tape here in the town of Waco. We would like to see the Epstein files. We would like to see. We want to form our own opinion. We do not want to sit here and be sheep, right?
And
that have
sold
our
an
opinion. Right, that are sold an opinion, or that have our opinion formed for us by some news media outlet like Fox News, or by some politician, right? Trying to
Exactly.
sell us something.
And
Right?
that
Let
helps.
us be the judge.
Absolutely. And that actually brings us into our next thing. So what we're looking to do is, first of all, and I mentioned this in a previous segment, is we are looking to network with other podcasters who may be doing local politics or politics on a smaller level, or independent reporters, journalists looking to collaborate so that we can get stories out there. One of the things that we've learned, and we definitely learned through this election cycle, particularly here in the town of Wallkill and the county of Orange, even Michael Sussman brought it up, is the fact that we have lost local journalism, right? We used to have the Times Herald Record here in Middletown, which covered, I think it initially covered Middletown, then it basically covered the county of Orange, maybe a little bit into other parts of the Hudson Valley. It's gone. The building is closed. Basically, it's an online service which has been probably bought up by another billionaire.
It was bought up by Dow Jones.
Dow Jones. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's no longer a local paper. Basically, if you go to an article, in Times Herald, it's the same article you'll see probably in any of the other
USA
commercial
Today.
sites. Huh?
You'll see it on USA Today.
Yeah, exactly. They just
Basically
kind
the
of
same paper.
So they just kind of feed the same articles over. We don't have local journalism, and there's a lot of journalists that are being independent, reporting on a lot of nationwide issues, and we can definitely touch on different things, or we're taking different topics and breaking them down with regard to federal stuff, but we don't have this is what happened today. There was a massive fire at somewhere, or there was a car accident. There's going to be, that could impact, or we had a massive flood due to a rainstorm and it washed out part of a road. And you might not hear about that until you're on the road and you're stuck in traffic or something, or might not know that the road's going to be closed for a month and a half while they rebuild it or something. We don't have that kind of information. And this falls right into politics and local governance. We don't know what's happening because there's nobody reporting on it. So what we want to do, let us know who you are. Drop us a comment, or DM us, let us know, and let's see if we can collaborate. All right. So that's and we'll do more on that because I'll do some more stuff on that in the future. But go ahead, Neil.
No, what I was gonna say is I agree. I mean, it's really, really difficult to get local news. I remember, when I was on the town board, right, I used to get local weather reports, right, not from the news, not from TV, not from newsprint or anything like that. It came from my DPW commissioner. He used to send us weather
Wow.
alerts because they would need to keep up to date, and they would get the weather alerts, and then he would issue the weather alerts either through the town, notification system, or via email. And, I tried to do my best to put it out on social media to make sure that people knew what was coming,
Yeah,
those
especially if
type of
it's a
things.
snowstorm.
Right. th- but you look at even the social media of government, right? Like of your government officials, your local government, your your state government, or even your they don't put any, their social media is just filled with good nature, good, like, oh, there's this opening, oh, look at your politicians, another party, they're going to another party, they're going to another opening, another this, right?
Yeah, it is social media stuff. It's not
It-
it's not
right.
news, and it's
It's
not information that you
self-aggrandizement.
need. It's literally a
Right.
desert. It's
Right.
literally a desert local news now. I mean, it's hard to really find
20 24
anything.
hour 24-hour news cycle, 24 hours of information, none of it local. None
Yeah,
of it actually, right? Like,
unless
none
something
of it,
really, really big
right.
happens.
Nothing that will impact you. And that sort of really gets back to what Denise and I have
Whoops.
been stressing, right? This idea of, everything really impacts you locally. You just don't know how,
Right.
because nobody ever kind of relays, like what we were talking about earlier with the Epstein files, right? This idea that Larry Summers, the Treasury Secretary, was, down and, may have had some involvement with Epstein. Well, what does that mean? That means that's interest rates. Right? Like, what does your Fed chairman do? He controls interest rates, right? Well, if he's meeting with high-powered bankers, right, and high-powered officials and private equity firms, and other governments, right, and that could mean some type of manipulation of interest rates, which could
Absolutely.
directly impact you and your mortgages or your car loans or something like that. And you got to remember something: when he was Treasury Secretary, what happened? We went into a mortgage crisis.
Yes. Yep.
Right? That was one of the things that occurred. Okay,
I
so
think we're heading
when
there
we
again.
when we talk about these things, okay, and try to give you what this actually means to you and your pocketbook, we're trying to show you it's more than just, right, this something that doesn't impact you. It's more than
Exactly.
this, like a lot of people, may look at the Epstein files, and I don't mean to keep going back to it, but it is kind of a scandal here.
It's huge.
It is a scandal, not kind of a scandal. It is a
It
scandal,
is. It's a huge
right?
one.
But this idea that it's more than just girls,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that that's sort of the issue, is that people can't wrap their heads around. Like, think about it. Your 30-year home mortgage, your interest rate may have been impacted by the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, right? Like, I mean, it sounds crazy,
Nothing is crazy
but
anymore with what's going on in this world. After what I just played, that was crazy.
right. But it's like, you don't, again, you don't know because you're not there. And it sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. Okay. But listen, it, you know, you have groups out there that believe that JFK Jr. is still alive following around
Yes.
Donald Trump, right? Like, I mean, this actually isn't crazy. These guys were wheeling and dealing. This is about money and power. It wasn't just about girls and sex trafficking.
Yes.
This is trafficking in information.
And that's really that's really the scandal underneath there, and that's what there's a lot in there. I just keep wondering just how bad it really is. Whatever he's in there for. I mean, I was just watching earlier the Daily Beans. Um, she was pointing out the fact that in the he's mentioned like 1,600 times in the emails that were released. So out of 20,000 emails, he was mentioned 1,600 times in them. That's significant. So when you think about the gigabytes, the 300,000 gig or whatever gigabytes of information that they have that could fit, I think, 1 or 2 truckloads, it kind of makes you wonder just how much is in there. Like if they were to go to redact, remember they assigned 1,000 FBI agents to review these documents to find his name. So if they were to do that, right, and they'd release the files, there'd be black marks all over the place. It would be just the fact that his name was redacted so many times and it would be so visible, you'd know he's in there that much. You know what I'm saying? You can't hide it anymore. You're hiding in plain sight. It's really bad. I think it's really bad.
It's not about the girls.
Nope. There's so much more. There's so much more. It's all of it.
This story that, even, when you start reading the emails, okay, what is interesting is not what's being said, but what's not being said.
Not being said, yeah.
Okay, because it's not like you could clearly see there's not really distress.
Yeah, they were comfortable.
Right?
They didn't think they were gonna.
Right, they're very comfortable. Like they know the investigation's coming. People are being arrested. Right?
Yeah, don't worry, we got this.
Right,
we're gonna get away with it anyway.
Right, there's no. It's not about the girls. There's no distress.
Yeah,
there's just none. Even Maxwell's sitting in prison right now. There's no distress.
Oh my God, she's getting like concierge treatment. She's got a puppy. She's got a fucking puppy.
Even before that, though, there was no distress. The issue is they know, like whatever it was that they were dealing in, right, beyond the girls, whatever they were dealing in, right, they got people by the balls, and they have like, and you're talking about very, very powerful people.
Yes.
People. You're talking about governments. You're talking about. You're talking about any number of things. I mean, think of the world that we lived in since this. You got to remember, this isn't just a Epstein. The last 20 years, right? Like 25 years.
He goes back 35 years ago.
Right, you're talking about 80. Like this goes back to the 80s. This goes back to the 90s. I mean, like these guys have been around for a long time. Think about all the world events that occurred,
That's true. That's true.
And who could have been involved, and what information could have led to whatever, and how that information was derived at, and maybe I've watched one too many Mission Impossible movies, right? But like it's not as far-fetched as people think.
No, we're finding that out. I think that, so we as citizens really need to push for this and push our elected leaders for this, because I think they're going to try to vote it down, just like we spoke about earlier. And we want that release. It's time for us to really stand up as individuals, as people, and when we choose our leaders, we got to choose the ones that aren't being financed by these billionaires. These billionaires involved in this whole Epstein thing are I'm going to say 99% certain they're also the money behind a lot of these PACs that are buying these billionaires.
But look, okay, I'm gonna lead
right. Buying not billionaires, buying our elected leaders.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna lead it right into our next topic.
Okay.
Right, with exactly what you said. All right. We just saw a shutdown. We saw Democrats posturing about healthcare. The healthcare subsidies were used, right, to pay the billionaires for the tax cuts.
For their tax cuts.
In the big, beautiful bill, right? So So let's keep that in mind. The ACA credits were never coming to us. So at the same time as these billionaires are going out and getting these tax breaks for themselves, they were the ones, wheeling and dealing on Epstein Island, right? These are the same people that were that are now, raiding the Treasury with contract after contract and laying off federal employees, dedicated workers who have worked their entire careers for the benefit of America. Okay, those are the true patriots, right? By the way, those federal workers are the true patriots,
Absolutely,
right, of this country, not the billionaires who raid the Treasury. And then we saw the senators and the congressmen vote to give themselves $500,000 paydays at the taxpayer expense. Right? All that happened, right? All while them trying to take away your health care. Right?
Absolutely. So that's going to cost us more money as well.
So Denise has something to say regarding that, the ACA and the healthcare. Now that the Schumer and the Democrats have caved in order to reopen the government on the healthcare subsidies, right? Denise has an update for us.
So,
take it away, Denise.
Yes. So I have been trying to get into New York State of Health to be able to update. I have to update my application. So I still have to go in there. I was in it earlier, and then I logged out, and then I couldn't get back in. But I can tell you this: the subsidy that I would get, my payment, I keep it about, it's $600 a month that I pay for my own health care. And this gives me an $850 deductible and a decent low cost on prescriptions. In fact, I take an expensive prescription that costs about $1,200 a month, and I pay $0 for it. So for me, if the subsidy ended today, the payment would jump up to $1,150 a month for that policy. It's so the levels are catastrophic, so that's just emergency health insurance. Bronze plan, which is a high deductible, generally anywhere from 5 to 10,000 or more, depending on what the premium is. Silver is right in the middle, and then gold would have like a 0 to very, very low deductible. So I went with a silver plan. Made it easier for me to afford my prescriptions, and I was able to I could afford the little bit higher payment, $600 a month. I could deal with. $1,150 is a lot. That's right now. And it's estimated that the premiums themselves are going to go up from last year, from this current year to next year, about 15%. And that was back in the summer they were talking about this. So let's just assume it's only 15% that it goes up. So that's going to add, another $225 a month on top of the $1,150 I'm already paying. So I could be, probably in the high 13s to $1,400 a month for health insurance. This is before I pay copays at the doctor. This is before I pay copays for medications. This is before I meet my deductible. I got to pay everything else up front on top of that. So, so figure annually, that's $18,000 a year in just, that's a mortgage payment for health insurance for some people, or at least half a mortgage payment for today's mortgages. So it's interesting. I was visiting with my mother yesterday, and she asked me about this so for those of you who might not have been following the podcast, my mother is a Trumper. She
MAGA Mom. MAGA Mom. We call her MAGA Mom from now on.
Yeah. She buys into everything they say. Fox News is on. She has two big screen TVs, and she usually has them both tuned to Fox on at the same time, while her phone is tuned to anything, that social media that's Fox News or anything, Her email is filled with Donald Trump emails and all that other stuff. So she asked me about this, and I told her exactly what I just told you. And she said the funniest thing to me, and I'm going to say it here. She said, you know, I have Medicare. I don't understand why we couldn't just offer that to everybody, even if it just paid 80%. Kid you not, 80, if it only paid 80%, and then they could, like, I pay like for a little extra policy to cover that 20%, and then people would only need to pay for that. Oh my God, that is the most liberal thing I've ever heard my mother say. And I said, thank you. Yes. You said this is Bernie Sanders. Have you been? She must be following Bernie, because that is what Bernie said. We should have Medicare for all. It shouldn't just be for elderly. We could pool our tax dollars and put it into a program that pays for health care for everybody across the board. Right now our taxes, we keep telling you, next year's taxes are not going down. They're going up, or if you're making a little bit above, it'll probably stay the same or be slightly higher. But for the lower classes, that's actually going up. And you're having to now pay massive premiums because you're losing subsidies, or you might be losing Medicaid altogether if you're on it, all to feed the pockets of the wealthiest, who are competing with each other to become the first trillionaire. It's absolutely obscene. It's obscene what is happening. So, oh my God, if there was something else we were talking about regarding this. We talked about a couple of things. First of all, I introduced her to other podcasts and pointed her to listen to other things, because she, of course, is hearing we have to watch out for that Mamdani because he's a socialist communist. Like, no, you don't have to worry about him, especially after you just said that with healthcare, wanting to make things more affordable. Healthcare, he just wants to make housing more affordable and transportation more affordable for the people in his community.
Can we be clear? He wants to make life more affordable, right? Like, this idea.
It's a radical idea. Radical left lunatic.
It was funny. So there was and I can't remember, it was one of the European countries. They just had a new prime minister, and they proposed a 4-day work week. 35-hour 4-day work week. Okay. The idea being that they believe that people are more productive with more time for themselves.
With more recreational time with family, with friends.
Right. Family, friends. The idea that for mental health purposes, they could take more time for themselves. Okay. And, there was one of those new CEOs, right? Like one of those new tech CEOs. He did the same thing in his company. He decided that he was going to make it so it's a 4-day work week, 35 hours a week. And people were like, like, oh my God, his company is going to go under. And his employees now make on average higher than any other company, in the world. And
they're
he's
more
a
efficient.
small company because they're more efficient. Right.
Yep.
And this idea, we have this idea, we like to label things. Okay. But strip away the label. Away the label, right? Take each one of these proposals individually, okay? And then make a decision whether you think it's a good proposal or not, rather than labeling something as being socialist, communist, whatever, right? Like, okay, the question becomes, should everybody in America, the wealthiest country, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, where we have rich in resources and, we create great wealth here, should every American be entitled to health care?
Yeah.
Period. That's your first question. I'm not saying affordable healthcare. I'm not saying state government healthcare. I did not specify the type of healthcare. All I said was, are they entitled to health care? Okay? Right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
if your answer to that is no, then you're probably a Republican.
Yes.
Right? Right? Because that is the belief of the Republican Party, right? That not every even if you are in America, you are not entitled to have health care. It is permissible for you to die on the street, okay? If you can't afford to have health care. Health care should be for wealthy people, right?
That's what
Should
they
be
think.
for people who should afford it. It is a commodity, right? Again, capitalist society, commodities, what you could buy and sell. Healthcare is something you could buy and sell, right? That's why they believe in selling, water rights and mineral rights and other types of rights. This idea about healthcare, where we were talking about as it relates to this ism or whatever, we have to start asking questions, having real conversations about these issues, and not allowing these politicians like Andrew Cuomo, like Donald Trump, like even Chuck Schumer. Like, we have to get rid of the labels, okay?
Yes.
Right? Like, so I'm going to give a statistic that is absolutely hysterical, okay? Congress's approval rating in this country is less than 10%. It's like hovers around 9%, okay?
Wow.
Hovers around 9%. Communism has an approval rating in this country of 11%, okay? Right? So, right, the people telling us that communism is bad have a lower approval rating
Than the communists.
than the thing that they're telling us is bad. Okay? Right? How about this? How about you start telling us the truth? How about you start treating us like we're real people, right? And treating us like we're not morons, okay? And maybe your approval rating will rise above the thing that you're getting us to dislike.
Exactly.
Okay? All right?
Exactly.
Until your approval rating gets above the thing that you're trying to get us to dislike, right? You should shut the fuck up about that thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There we go.
All right.
So yeah. So interesting point. Since I was talking to my mother, and I'm going to get back to the election, the local election. As you know, Maria Patrizia won. So this is kind of a separate issue because it's just things that we talked about, because I was with my mother for a couple of hours talking. And I asked her, I said, I did you vote for Maria? And again, of course, she finally gave it up. She's like, well, I just wasn't sure. There was more information. I didn't have enough information about her. I'm like, Mom, that woman knocked on your door. You could have asked her. I know, but, blah, blah, blah. She didn't have an answer. So I said, well, did David Furlan knock on your door? And she said, he left me a message. I said, he left you a message. Probably, I don't know, something in the mail, something in the email. She never spoke to him, but she voted for him because he was the R.
It's a cult.
And this
it really is. It is a cult. Absolutely. And now that I'm glad you brought it back to the local level, because this healthcare issue, right? That Medicare for all that our politicians, all of them, are trying to scare you against is the exact healthcare that they have.
That we pay for.
That you paid for, right? So you are paying for them to have what is considered
the Cadillac of healthcare.
of healthcare, right? So that extremely expensive healthcare you are paying for. You are paying for them to have that, and they're telling you it's good enough for them, but it is not good enough for you.
Right.
Okay.
Work harder. Work harder.
Right. That you have to work harder, right? So this isn't, again, it's a wealth issue, right? But it's not a wealth issue, okay? Because of the fact that these are extremely wealthy people, but they're saying, we don't want to pay for our own health care. We want you as the taxpayers to pay for our health care. And not for nothing, this is a local issue too, because these politicians that work 20 hours, 20 hours or less, or 15 hours a week, okay, are also getting health care.
But they're
Okay?
getting it also after 10 years of service. It's lifetime paid for by the taxpayer in the town.
Right.
10 years. Lifetime. So
Right.
imagine if you're out of you're right out of high school, you get a job for the town doing some clerk work for 10 years. At 28, 29 years old, you've got health care for the rest of your life on the back
you
of the
know what?
locals of everybody here.
I think, when it comes to municipal work, there are a lot of people who work 30, 40 years in municipal work. Okay. And I'm not talking about the workers. The workers should have some type of lifetime benefit. If you're going to go into public service and you're going to work, in I don't even care the role, you're going to work as a full-time, not a part-time employee, a full-time employee.
Full-time employee.
Right? A full-time employee working 40 hours a week or 35 hours a week. Okay. Then there should be, because you're earning less than somebody on an open market, generally speaking, right? I know that salaries are sort of moving, and we can have that debate about how much should an employee contribute toward that, right? But there should be some type of benefit moving forward, right? The county has like 15 years. A lot of places have like 15 years, right? The town of
let me ask you a question. Do they pay any kind of partial or co-premium for that hit?
It depends on the union contract. It depends on the handbook.
Okay.
So in the town of Waukegan, if you're a new employee, you pay 15% of the health care. I believe most of the union contracts now have that. If you are if you are an older employee that have been there, then obviously you may pay nothing. There's a kind of a sliding scale based on contracts and stuff like that.
So based on term of service.
My issue in particular are not the part-time employees, right? And not the full-time employees of the town. It's the elected officials.
Yes.
Right? That you get to be an elected official, and these guys, there was a 15-year you work 15 years for the town as an elected official, 15 consecutive years as an elected official. So you get elected, time after time, right? Basically, your reward is you get to help your community. No. Your reward is that you get lifetime health benefits from the town. Okay. And that was 15 years it was originally. And then there happened to be 2 board members who were coming up on 10 years, right, this year, okay, and decided last year, you know what, we're going to change that.
Wow.
We're going to change that for the elected officials. So for the elected officials, they said, no, not 15 years, 10 years, just in case those 2 officials actually lost.
Wow.
Okay.
That is
right. Again,
one of them did.
It's one of it's this cashing out process, right? Like we want to, we don't care about, anybody else's health care. It's all about us.
Yeah.
We don't care about what benefits the town. It's all about us, right? It's about me as an individual, right? What can I get in it for myself? Can I get a job for my son? Can I get a job for this person? Can I get a job for that person? Can I help this person out by, skirting some rule or whatever, right? Like people don't realize that these local positions, these elected positions, you have power, okay? And you have the ability to, you could scam the electorate into thinking you're a great guy, but at the same token, you're sitting there stealing from out the back door.
Wow.
I'm not to put it lightly. I mean, I've been pretty harsh, this entire time.
But yeah, no, you're not too light on anything.
That to me, listen, I could have stayed on the board. I could have been, been reelected a councilman. I could have gotten my 10 years, right? There's absolutely no way if I was on that board that vote would have occurred. Okay. never would have even seen the light of day, because I would have made sure that every person in this town knew that they were going to change that law,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
And I could have been there for 15 years and gotten my free health care for life and moved on, right? Again, I wasn't there for me. I wasn't doing any of it for me.
right. Right.
Okay. And I know that's rare, whatever. I don't care. Right.
It shouldn't be rare. It shouldn't be rare.
But it is what it is. But look at all these people are doing, right? Like from top down, right? The government owes me $500,000 because they took my phone away from me. Oh, poor baby. They
I
took your
mean,
phone
come
away
on.
from you. Wah! These are a bunch of freaking snowflakes. They turn around and call us snowflakes and say, well, you're a snowflake because you're too sensitive.
Yeah. And let's
Give me
not
a
forget.
fucking break.
Give me a break. Yeah. While they also changed the term on the healthcare, right? The tenure on the healthcare, they also gave themselves some decent raises here in the town over the last 4 years. We watched the supervisor salary go up $22,000 in 4 years.
Highest paid supervisor
Yeah.
in Orange County.
I mean, that's insane. And all of the, council positions also got raises as well. I mean, it's understandable that the incomes should increase relative to the cost of living or to inflation. But inflation, well, if you were going to count now, I guess that would be okay. But no, the inflation was not at that rate. At $22,000, it was at about 100,000, few pennies either way. When Frank Dendanto's first term ended, and Serrano came in, and nice pay raise for themselves.
There are a few municipalities that have done the right thing, right? They've said that if you're an elected official, we're not giving you health care. We're not going to, you don't get the lifetime benefits. There are some municipalities that have done that. I don't think enough of them have, right?
Yeah, obviously, certainly, this one hasn't.
We need to do more. We need to look at these things. You just can't give out benefits and say, oh, well, for years of great service. Who determines what's great service or not? Just because you get reelected, even though you live in a majority, right? Like, I mean, you could live in a majority, because of gerrymandering, you could live in a majority and Democrat or Republican district, and you could be elected for life.
Be elected for life is particularly when you're actually shilling for the other party while getting elected for one party, and so the other party doesn't run a candidate against you. I think we know who we're talking about there. Yeah.
This is why paying attention, this is why understanding who's really on your side, asking questions when they come to your door, making sure their views, especially on local politics. Don't ask somebody who's running for a council seat, about, like I used to get asked about SNAP, all the time. Like I had
things
nothing
that are
SNAP,
not in
right? Like,
that you work with.
These are people in charge of your local police force. How, ask them, how do they feel about police oversight, ensuring proper police oversight,
wearing cameras,
your local police force? Where do you stand on cameras, right? Where do you stand on use of force? Where do you stand on stop and frisk? Where do you stand on where do you stand on government health care for elected officials?
Yeah, exactly, which is a big one. And
Right.
and when you think about this, when you think that when you think of government jobs, civil service jobs, whether they're at the federal level, the state level, or the local level, if we're able to utilize tax dollars, whether they're property taxes or income taxes, to take a piece of that to give them coverage for the rest of their lives for their service. Um, why can't we take some of that money back from the richest people there and spread that around to everybody? Why should people have to face losing their houses or putting a second or third mortgage on their house to pay for care because their insurance, either they're underinsured or not insured at all because they can't afford it because of what these people are doing?
I have a better one for you. Why doesn't the government just step in, provide health care for everybody, and reduce the costs, right? That we are currently pouring into the system, right? Like, everybody keeps talking about this idea of, like, where are you going to get the money or how you're going to pay for something. You don't. Per capita, the United States spends more money on healthcare than every industrialized nation in the world. We are already spending the most to get the least, right, to get the lowest, I want to say service, to get the least outcomes, right? The
Yes.
least beneficial outcomes. We spend the most money for the worst outcomes, right? And here's all I'm going to say, right? There is a better way to do it. And I'm sick and tired of the labels. It's like, it needs to be done. People need to stop talking in the rhetoric of socialism, communism, fascism, like all the isms. Like, enough with the isms, right?
Yes.
We can reduce the cost of healthcare tomorrow by providing healthcare to all. This isn't a where are you going to get the money? The money is already there. Right?
Yeah.
Stop with that
absolutely it is.
nonsense. The money is already there. We're already putting it into the system. All it is a reallocation of the money that we're already putting in the system, which would end up with the benefit of putting more money into your pocket as an individual. That's what they don't want you to know. That's what they don't want you to know. That's why they keep phrasing it as, where are you getting the money? Because at the end of the day, the other side puts money back into your pocket.
Yep. That's it. Just listen, and then we'll go back.
You have to make it louder then, because
Say that?
nobody can hear it. You have to make it louder then, because nobody hears it.
Oh, you're not here? No, I don't. I'm not. I didn't share it yet. I was gonna share it, but because it's Instagram,
right.
you have to let it play all the way through before you restart it. There's no line here. She was talking about Nixon has a lot to do with our issues with healthcare and how it's evolved to where we are today.
Kaiser Permanente.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she didn't bring that one up, but she brought up an act that he did in the early 70s.
Yeah.
But it started from there, and then by the 1980s, she says Blue Cross Blue Shield went corporate.
There was a whole documentary on it. I saw it.
So, but yeah,
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a lot of issues, and costs are skyrocketing for everything. Healthcare is, we just had this issue with SNAP benefits. And so, I guess they wanted to end the shutdown because of SNAP. But understand this, the president of the United States, along with the Republicans, held people hostage, 42 million Americans who collect SNAP benefits hostage in order to get Democrats to capitulate.
It's all about cruelty.
Cruelty is the point.
Idea of the cruelty is the point, right? I mean, we all need the conversation again needs to change. We need to stop with the isms, right? And labels, and start going to what is it that we want? What do we want, right? We're not sitting here, a lot of people may accuse us of America bashing, or we're not capitalists, right?
Want to make America better.
I to be honest with you, you know, anybody who would talk to me would know I'm a capitalist, right? Like, I mean, you know, there's nothing about me. But here's the thing, right? FDR was a capitalist,
Yeah, you can.
and the one thing FDR said, right, which resonates today, is he said, and I'll quote him: "I saved capitalism."
Yeah,
He said it. I saved capitalism, right? That's what his intent was, right? Capitalism, you know, anybody who studied history and anybody who studied economics will tell you capitalism is self-destructive, right? It's creative
unrestrained
destructionism.
capitalism is self
Right.
destructive.
It's just very self-destructive, right? It's about the idea of creating and destroying all at the same time, right?
Yes,
In order to get something better, you have to create something, but you also have to destroy something in the process. And what FDR said is in order to ensure, right, a sound economy for all, including those people at the bottom, okay, we have to ensure that destruction doesn't end us all, right? Like,
exactly.
doesn't destroy our economy. And that's sort of what he did. He put in place mechanisms that all right, you don't climb as high, but you don't fall as much.
You don't
Okay?
fall as
And
low. Yeah,
what we see is when the reason why people feel like we do better when Republicans are in office is they take off a lot of those restraints, right?
yes,
So we grow high, right? Well, by the point in time we reach our peak or we start to go over the top, right, of the peak, right, we elect a Democrat because all of a sudden we realize things aren't going the way we want and we want to make sure that we don't bottom out here, right? So what does the Democrat have to do? The Democrat has to find a way, right, to rein in everything to make sure that we don't fall as much, okay? Right? And what does that mean? That means, yeah, you're not going to feel like you're doing as well during a democratic economy because there are more restraints being put in place, right? Right? And those restraints are being put in place, right, because of all the people up top, the billionaires, the regulation, right? The regulation is for the billionaires. If you got rid of the billionaires, right, or the billionaire class or these large conglomerates and you broke them up, right, the way they were supposed to be broken up, okay, what would end up happening is you wouldn't need as much regulation, which would allow more creativity and more investment and more people coming in and creating new things, right, which would actually help our overall economy
absolutely.
and would you know, one of the worst things that occurred out of the banking crisis was that we didn't break up the big banks. If they had
Oh
broken up
yeah,
the big banks, it would have actually done more to create more jobs on the
there you
market
go.
than anything. By them allowing banks to consolidate, right, it meant more unemployment, which meant more social services, which meant that the government had to step in and do more.
And it
Okay?
also allowed the banks to consolidate more cash. You know,
Correct.
because of how they got hit in during the housing collapse in
Right.
2008. They learned their lesson there, and they held on to a lot more capital. And so,
There,
if things go south, which is the way it's looking, you know, I'm just waiting for that bottom to fall out. Those banks are going to still remain solvent for the better part, while the rest of
well,
us
they're
sink.
Well, again, they're trying to put in laws and regulations in place now, which again, this impacts you. That it's not your money. The money that you're putting in the banks, right? They're trying to recreate the laws that say that the money that you're putting in your bank is not yours, right? That it somehow belongs to the bank. Once it's given to them, it belongs to the bank. And then they can ration your money to you. Okay, we saw, well, I think we saw Bank of America try that back in the day, right, where they had said, well, you can only take out X amount per day.
Right. Putting in, right.
Okay, it's your money,
It's your money. You
right?
should be able to take whatever you want when you want it.
but what we're seeing is more and more the banks are being given more and more power and control over your money. Again, so it's this idea, you don't own anything. Nothing is yours. Okay? And I don't
The new ism is feudalism, neo-feudalism.
that again, we have to start getting rid of the labels. Mom, again, I'll go back to Mamdani, right? Look at what he was advocating for. He was advocating for more affordable housing in New York City, right? He was advocating for more affordable or free bus service, right? So employees can get to their jobs, right? And can get around the city, right? And he was advocating for free childcare, right?
These are not horrible things.
You come up here, right? One of the biggest complaints that you find from everybody up here is the lack of childcare.
Yes. Yeah.
People talk about that all the time. I used to get that all the time as a councilman, right? This idea about childcare, okay?
Because they're commuting. So, and we talked about this even last week. I pointed out that my next door neighbor, they take their kid with them. She goes to school down in the city. That's a hell of a commute.
Yeah.
And she's a grade school kid. She's probably in like first grade. That's a lot, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and driving back and forth. It's a long day for a little kid.
But this is, you start again, and I'll go back to, I don't really think it's the initiatives that people have an issue with, right? I think the issue is that almost like who's getting it, right? This idea like these are needs of upstate New York. Okay, why is the city getting another benefit that we need up here that we can't get?
And
right?
now,
So you get this the disparity of the haves and the have-nots. Again, we go to billionaires versus everybody else.
yeah. And so it goes to who you elect. You really need to pay attention. You have to stop. People, you gotta stop with the freaking red marker and blue marker. You gotta listen to what these people are saying, it's particularly if they happen to knock on your door. And if they're not knocking on your door, find out where they're going to be and talk to them. Because now we're going into 2026. This should be a landmark year for primaries. And the primaries should be on both sides, and there should be grassroots. They should be grassroots candidates, regular people who truly understand what it is to be a part of the working class. People like Graham Plattner, he's a working class guy. Oh my God. Well, AOC was a waitress, so I mean, I don't think she's going to have a problem getting back in. But we can't be voting in, what is it, Rick Scott again?
Cat Abelazale
Thank you.
in Chicago, right? I mean, there are some good candidates out there. There's a candidate running out in San Francisco for Pelosi seat, but here's what I'm gonna say, and I really think it bears saying because I don't think it's said enough. Okay. When you hear that 1 million people are going to leave New York,
yes,
right, because of Mamdani, right? We keep hearing that 1 million people are going to leave New York because of Mamdani. Who is telling you that?
The people
right? Who's the source? That's the millionaires and billionaires telling you if this guy gets elected, we are going to leave. Why are they telling you that? Not because they're going to leave, but because they don't want that guy elected.
Right.
Right? Because that guy isn't in their interest. They're trying to control your vote. And why? Because they have money. Okay? And their money supersedes your money because you don't have enough money to sit there and buy that ad on the paper. Right? So that, right, you don't have that. They have that. So they're going to take out all the news things. They're going to bombard you with ads. They're going to spend millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on elections, right? To get you to believe, okay, that it's that you need to vote in their own interests.
And they're
not
use
going
fear,
anywhere.
to use fear and buzzwords. I mean, my mom said, like I said, talking to my mom, she described him as Mom Donnie, he's a Marxist socialist. I said, really? I said, what is that? Can you define that? And she looked around the room
Right.
and didn't have an answer. I'm like, you're simply repeating what they tell you over and over
Right.
on your favorite media station, your 24-hour-a-day news media station with crisis actors who give you all the drama every single day. This is how they control you. And look
Being
somewhere else.
perpetuated by people who have a 9% approval rating.
Yes, 9%
Right?
approval rating.
Right? The people, your politician, right? Everybody thinks their politician's great and every other one sucks. They all
Yes.
suck. They have a 9% approval rating. Okay? 9%. Right? That means 91% of the people think that they suck. Okay? Right? And most of those people think your guy is the guy who sucks. So how about we decide to say that they all suck and that we just need new ones?
And let's go.
That are not going to be partisan, that aren't going to sit there and blow smoke up our ass.
Absolutely.
Right? And are actually going to tell us like it is.
That's it. So, yes. So, in closing on this segment, get out there and learn who these people are running. Guess what? If nobody is challenging your incumbent who's been there for like 20 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you don't like them, you know what? Why don't you find out how to run against them? Whether it's if they're part of your part, run for something. Runforsomething is it .com or .org? It's called Run for Something. Whatever it is, learn how to do that. And get out there, and you might have something to offer. We need if we really want to. I think there's a little bit of a coming of age on the right from some, more and more people, because they were like railing him on True Social, with other stuff. So people are starting to wake up. So you know what? Find out about Run for Something. The way we beat this, the way we take back our country from the billionaires who basically are trying to own everything, is for us to stand up and challenge them at the ballot box. Fight their money.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head. The only thing I would like to add to that is that it's the there are finally candidates who have taken, believe it or not, I'm going to say it, what the rhetoric that Trump was touting, right? Not only affordability, but rooting out the corruption, right? And the, not being lied to, right? Like he talked about that, right? Like, oh, you're being lied to, right? Like he used to, that's the way he talked, right? But now there are candidates out there that are real about it.
Yes.
Right? Or at least are appearing real about it. And I think that finally people are starting to say, this is what I want. And they're starting to look at who they're being backed by, where the dark money is coming from. It's, if you're being backed by a super PAC, then you're probably not, I mean, we've seen it in pretty much a lot of the elections that have occurred in 2025. We saw it when Elon Musk was pushing the Wisconsin judges, right? That Wisconsin judge, and he lost. Okay.
They poured millions into that.
They poured millions into the New York City campaign. They poured millions, and the millions at a lot of people are starting to wake up.
Yeah.
And
this is how we do it.
And even in Maine, where the Democrats and the super PAC money went with Mills, right? It doesn't seem to be working.
No.
People are tired of the status quo. They're being tired of being pushed for the status quo. I mean, you kind of look at Mills and you look at Collins and you say to yourself, well, what would be the difference?
Right. Yeah.
What
the same people back both. The same billionaires back both.
You hate Collins. We hate Collins, right, because of her votes. But then you look at her votes, and she's kind of playing both sides against the center.
Yeah, that's it.
And we, Democrats seem to like that, right? Like they've always seemed to like back away from really ever challenging Collins, especially in a state where Democrats seem to win. Why can't they ever beat Collins? Because they never really tried.
Right.
Okay. And
along comes Graham Plattner.
Right. And I think that there are a lot of candidates out there that are trying to do good things, talking a good game, and they need to be listened to. And I think those narratives are exactly what we need right now. Whether you like them or you don't like them, that's what we need. We need to balance this out.
Yes. And this is how we do it. And it's interesting. Just one final thought. I shared with you a video earlier today that I saw from the Bulwark. They interviewed Chris Murphy, Senator Chris Murphy. It is a fantastic interview. He talks about this at length, and he points to how important it is to first of all, to speak up. He talks about the PAC money and how bad that is and how it's permeated the our elected officials. And we see they also pour money into state elections and into smaller local elections too. If they feel that it's a position that they want to hold, they'll pour a lot of money into it. If you see the money going into there, you see these big ass ads, know that there's somebody with an agenda behind that billionaire. We have to stop the billionaire agenda, right? Woke is back. But yeah, if you can, if you don't follow the Bulwark and go watch that interview. Listen to Senator Murphy, Chris Murphy. It's really great.
I really do. Can I just say, I really hate the term woke.
I know. I know.
It's a right-wing term. It's another term for meaning educated.
Yes.
All right. And
educated and enlightened.
It's stupid. It really is stupid because it means that the people that the other people are not. Okay. There are people out there with a lot of common sense, right?
Yes, absolutely.
They're not stupid, but they're being treated as stupid, and they're being sold a bill of goods, a bad bill of goods. And one of the reasons why they can be sold that bill of goods is because only one side is talking to them, right? We have to remember, Democrats spend money in only 8 states.
I know.
Okay. There are 50 states in the union. There was only ever one Democrat who talked about a 50-state strategy. Okay. And as soon as he opened his mouth and started talking about the 50-state strategy, he got laughed off the stage. He got relegated to obscurity, right? And now nobody even talks about him anymore. Okay.
Do we even know his name?
Yeah, Howard Dean.
Oh, I never even heard of him. So that should tell you how far that went.
Howard Dean ran for president. He did the Dean scream, which
scream. I remember.
Right. Everybody remembers that. Okay, and he got laughed off the stage saying that was unpresidential, right? Like, I mean, think about that. That was considered unpresidential back in the day. I got a president right now sitting there going, grab him by the, you know what?
Yeah.
Okay, right? But it's unpresidential, right? To scream on stage and show enthusiasm. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he's the last Democrat I ever saw that actually exhibited any type of enthusiasm. Okay. And he said, you know, I'm going to go around to every state and I'm going to convince them. And he goes, because nobody's ever gone to these red states and talked to them like they were people. Talk to them about their issues, what they have to deal with. They have to deal with the same issues we do.
Absolutely.
You know, they have health care issues. They have small businesses. In fact, they have more small businesses. Okay,
the farms are struggling.
They have farms, right? They live in rural areas. It's harder to get to health care. They have transportation issues. They have housing issues. They have all the same issues, but Democrats don't talk to them.
But when Bernie Sanders goes there, he draws massive crowds.
Because they're not stupid.
Yeah. He's drawing
they're you know, if you had one person talking to you all the time and you didn't hear anything from anybody else, you'd believe that person too.
Yeah. So this is why, you know, somebody needs to talk to the party and say, what the fuck are you doing?
It's the
Even Chris Murphy said that.
It's the billionaires. It's the billionaires that pay. Listen, they've carved up the country. They said, you get this piece, we get this piece, everybody stays in their spot. The gerrymandering occurs so that there are a certain number of Democrats and a certain number of Republicans, and nobody can ever have a supermajority to ensure that rich people, that these billionaires have to pay taxes and pay their share or do whatever, right? The idea is to ensure that we have a status quo government. And that we have
awful.
status quo in this country. And Trump has done the one thing, right, that everybody's been saying for years can be done, okay, and that Democrats have refused to do. And that is turn the government on its head. Now Democrats know that this is possible. Right? What Mamdani ran on is possible.
Yes.
Okay. All right. They now know it's possible. And the wealthy in this country are extremely nervous and upset about that.
Yeah.
They don't care. Listen, they did free, you know, one of the things that came up, New Mexico, free daycare. Free child care services.
Yeah,
for the entire state. Right, for the entire state. They can do it for the entire state, not socialist, not communist, New Mexico. Just New Mexico.
New Mexico.
It's the state of New Mexico. Right. They can do that. Right, but it's because Mamdani is in New York City. It's because he has a high profile job. Okay, and it's his charisma and his rhetoric around it. That's what they are afraid of. They are afraid of his speech.
Yep. And they're afraid that what if he succeeds? No. Even if he exceeds in half of his goals, that's still something, because they're pretty high, they're pretty lofty goals. And, he's going to deal with a lot of pushback, but I'm excited to see what he does.
It's not lofty. They did it in New Mexico.
They did it in New Mexico. Good point. The child care, they did it in New Mexico. Good point.
It's not lofty. These are all attainable goals. And in fact, I give him a lot of credit. He picked actually short-term, very attainable goals, right? I heard him say it, right? It was okay for Andrew Cuomo, okay, when he was governor, to give billions of dollars in contracts to Elon Musk. There was enough
Oh,
money for
yeah.
that,
Plenty
right?
money.
But there's not enough money, right? If it's this idea that profits are privatized and losses are socialized. We have socialized losses and privatized profits in this country, okay? And
we pay for it all.
And we pay for it all, but we don't have, so there's money there. There's just not money for you.
Right. So we have a lot of work to do. And Chris Murphy also pointed to the fact that he's been investing his, taking money, that donations that he receives for campaigning, and has been investing it in encouraging to help organizations like Indivisible and other organizations to help build resistance to what is happening, to the billionaires, to the billionaire class. And so I just want to remind people, everyone, beginning on November 20th to November 22nd, the Flair USA 50501 and what's called the Removal Coalition are going to be having a 3-day event known as Remove the Regime. And each day they're going to do something different. On the 20th, they are actually going to go. They've already broken the record in September. They're going to get as many people as they can who can get down there on the 20th to go into the halls of Congress and talk to Congress people. They did this already. They had 1,600 people march into the halls of Congress in September. They have other events planned on Friday, including a comedy event. Cliff Cash is part of it. And then on Saturday, there is going to be a massive rally at the Lincoln Memorial. The Dropkick Murphys are going to be there. There's going to be a number of other activists, musicians. They're going to have concert. They're going to have speakers. Al Green is going to be speaking. And they also want to have, they're going to have a number of creators, content creators like us to speak to people, and with the goal of encouraging Congress to, I don't know what kind of luck they're going to have, but they are pushing for impeachment. They want to speak to our Congress people about the things that are happening and that we need to impeach. That's what their goal is. But the fact is the more people that show up, the more attention it draws. And they've been doing this. First of all, some of these people are there every day. Every day. People like Jolly Good Ginger, and these people are out there. They have like a little tent set up over by the railroad station, by Union Station. They are there every single day, all day long, just protesting quietly. Even when they came and took their tents down, right? They sent in whether it's ICE or the local police to go in and remove their tents. They fought. They got their tents back. They are allowed to be there. So we, or me specifically, me and my husband, are going down. We can't be there on the 20th, but we are going to be heading down there on the 21st so that we can attend. We're going to attend the evening events on the 21st, and we will be there on the 22nd for the big rally. I will hopefully get to meet some of these creators and get some interviews, and maybe even do a live broadcast. And who knows? I'm excited to see what happens. I was there in D.C. on June 6th for Unite for Veterans. We had several thousand people on the National Mall. Dropkick Murphys were there too. And that was also promoted by a lot of the same people that are doing this event. So I think it should be fun and exciting and important. We had huge success for No Kings. So now it's time to converge on D.C., on the Capitol, and have, if you can be there, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people is what we really need. We need to fill D.C. because that sends a message. Are you coming with me? Coming with us?
No.
No, I know.
No.
I know. I know. But I understand there's going to be a lot of people there. So, should be fun. So,
Good.
we covered a
Glad.
lot of shit today. We
We
covered
did.
so much stuff today. Look, folks. We got a lot going on. We're gonna be trying to get more information out to you. Again, if you are a creator or you want to be a creator in this space, if you have if you do a local podcast where you're talking about news and current events, reach out to us. We want to collaborate. We want to network with you. And either way, if you're just watching us, you're just finding us, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell so you get notified when new videos drop. We promise not to annoy you too much, but a lot, especially with the content we did today. There's going to be a lot of videos.
And remember, we're Denise and Neil, and we got the birds all behind us.
The birds are cheering away. You hear them back there? So we will see you too soon. We love you guys. Thanks so much for hanging with us. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Peace out.